During this segment, we're going to be talking with Dorothy Payton. Dorothy and I have known each other as colleagues at Portland Community College for several years, and I've admired her work, and she's seen a little bit of our work. And this is going to be an unusual one because this is totally unplanned and barely rehearsed. We just kind of know the story. But here's what happened 5 days ago, 5 days from the day we're filming this. I'm walking upstairs in the technical classroom building where the studio is located. And after a long day, I'm heading out the door, and off the elevator comes Dorothy. And I say, "Hi, Dorothy." And she's always full of good ideas and creative ideas. And she wants to know what I'm up to. So in the walk that went from a normal paced, "Hi, how are you? Let's keep walking to the parking lot," to a "let's slow down a bit," we talked for about 12 minutes that were sizzling. And during those 12 minutes, I explained to her what I was doing with the new class. She asked, and I told her, what's the latest thing you're doing? I said, we have a cognitive activity design class that opens up spring term. And she then said, "Tell me more." I did. She then explained that she had that same experience of coming up with an idea to cognitively jumpstart her father, Dennis. And I quickly said, "Tell me more." Once I heard that, my next question, before I even heard the end of Dorothy's story, was, "Would you come in next week? I've got some studio time. I'm doing some interviews. Michael Patterson's joining me." Next thing I know, she's on this circus wagon with me. And so, Dorothy, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome, Roger. It's a pleasure.
And I'll tell you, I really don't know how this is going to end because I didn't have time in that 12 minutes to really understand exactly what happened, but I'm going to walk our students through what happened,
Okay.
how it happened, and then where do you think it's going to go from there? But give us a background, and the students want to know who you are and what do you teach here at Portland Community College?
I'm an architect, or have an architecture design firm. I teach currently at Portland Community College in the architecture and drafting departments and the interior design department. And my second job here, I'm one of the coordinators at the Teaching Learning Center. And so I help facilitate events, training, seminars, conferences, so that faculty have opportunities for ongoing professional development.
All right, let me stick on the word events because I think that may be the closest thing. I've seen some of the events that you've surprised people. You always want to make sure it's attractive to them and that it keeps their attention. And you do it on a regular basis. You know how to promote it, carry it off, and then you have outcomes. So tell us a little bit about Dennis, your dad.
So my father is an 85-year-old disabled veteran and is housebound and made a career in communications, but this was radio, teletype, crypto. So having access to information is really important to him. He's also dyslexic, so reading papers is a challenge for him. Reading magazines is a challenge. So talking to people one-on-one is very important, and he's housebound. So it's really difficult to make that social connection. So 2 years ago, he met a neighbor at his previous home, and he had stimulating intellectual conversations with her. She's a Lisa Staley, an art history instructor at another community college. She was moving to Austria to teach. And she wanted to stay in touch with him to keep the conversation going. So she taught him how to Skype.
Okay, that's a cognitive activity in itself. Okay, and did he know much about computers?
He knew nothing. He can do email. Everything's on email.
But he was motivated because of Lisa wanting to continue the conversation and said, okay, I'm willing to learn. So then what happened?
So Lisa helped him set up a Skype name, and she's in an apartment building next to his, so they did a few little practice runs, telephone calls on Skype. So I come by in my regular visit with him, and he goes, look, I have Skype on my phone.
That surprised you?
Well, I said, yeah, hey, I didn't do that. What do I know about Skype? So he said, look, I can talk to Lisa when she's in Austria. And I said, well, that is fabulous. You can keep in touch with your friends. So we were moving him closer to where I live and setting up a house that is more accommodating for his needs, his physical needs. So he uses a wheelchair. So we were setting up a whole technology array for him. Big screen TV, integrated remote, Apple TV, got him a new iPhone plus 6, got him an iPad.
He was like Commander Kirk on the Starship.
Actually, he has a bridge.
Okay.
And we had to bring in some tables for all the electronics. So being communication oriented, remote control genius, I don't know anybody who can record more DVR shows at one time than he does. So we're going to introduce him to new technology. So he's really flabbergasted and excited about it. It is frustrating. It's a steep learning curve.
Okay.
So I download Skype to his computer. We look him up, and he goes, "Oh, I can talk to Lisa on my computer or on my iPad now and on his phone." So there's too many choices, maybe. So one afternoon we're chatting, and he goes, "Do you think I could Skype to Turkey?"
To Turkey, the country.
The country,
Okay.
Turkey. I go, "Probably. I think Skype goes anywhere there's a computer line." He says, "Well, I'd like to talk to my very best friend, Niyazi Ferhat, in Istanbul. I haven't seen him in over 40 years."
Just say, this is a 40-year gap between the last time that the two of them talked.
They talk regularly, but they hadn't seen each other.
Okay.
So they telephone each other.
They had contact, and he said, "Here's this new thing. Keep going."
So he
What
says,
happened?
"Here's this new thing. I wonder if Niyazi Bey could do Skype." So on the phone, he asked Niyazi, do you have a computer? Yes, but it doesn't get good access, and it's intermittent, and there's power outages and things. So he said, "But let me ask my son." So Niyazi, who's probably close to 90, talks to his son. Son says, "Yes, I have a computer. Yes, I can do Skype." So Niyazi talks to my father again, and they say, "Well, let's do this." Well, we need the son's email address, so we get involved with one of my sisters who stays constant correspondence with them, gets his name, gets his email address, and we start this like a chain letter. I'm talking to the son who's talking to Niyazi, who doesn't have a computer.
And this is to get the resources and figure out how we're going to pull this thing off.
Exactly.
So when you got involved, were you even thinking about the cognitive advantages of having your dad see as well as hear his friend?
I wanted him to have more social connections.
Okay, social isolation. Now, in our class, The Aging Mind, all of our students know that isolation is fatal. And I always say those three words. Fatal to your body, because you're going to likely die sooner, but also to your cognitive abilities, that once you break that isolation with something that's new and exciting, especially if it's challenging, you have to learn. That's why when you told me a little bit, I didn't know all this, but keep going. So you have this chain letter of information. Okay, what do you got, and can we hook this into this?
Right.
What happened?
So we make all the connections. We decide we're going to do it New Year's Eve. So
celebrate something.
Celebrate something. Well, I always thought, well, one of these days I'll learn to Skype. So I read up on Skype. I'm exploring. I'm having cognitive development. I'm developing a skill set. I test the equipment. I look at the background. I close doors. I have it all set up. I play the stage director.
Okay.
And so we have that all set up, and we now have to figure out what time it is in Istanbul. So we're doing this like a week ahead. So I think the cognitive things, my father's looking forward to this.
Yep.
And it's worth putting up with the frustration.
Dorothy, let me stop. There's a point that someone who is looking forward to that New Year's Eve, you got a date on the calendar. You don't do it tomorrow because it might fail, but you wait until, and then once you've tested, you don't even do it the first day you know it'll work. You put a date. That's why I noted special event. And so his reason to get up in the morning is he would count down how many days until. And even though he might call up anytime, this was something that ups the game.
Absolutely.
Okay, so as the week started, then what happened?
So there's we are setting the logistics up, and we're communicating, and I see him almost every day now. And he says, "Well, have you heard from Niyazi's son?" "Yes, we're corresponding. He wants to know when you're available." We have to get his father into town, to their home. We pick the date, let's pick a time. So my father goes to his iPhone, and we start looking up date and time calculators for global time.
Okay.
So now he has a global clock. So we're looking up and doing some translation, and he's quite engaged in all of this.
His brain is getting a workout. It's what we write about the smidgen, the power of a smidgen. That's a whole bunch of smidgens that he would not have been doing the last day of that year that when you were doing it. And those are the things that you could do this yourself, but you involve someone who is going to be participating, and that's where we've got someone in the bullseye. We wanted to not make it too hard, but not too easy. You don't just plug and play your dad. You said you have to build this contraption.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I agree that I believe in collaboration, so to have him engaged and be in charge, essentially.
And take pride.
Take pride in it, as well as the anticipation.
Okay,
So,
we're building this up.
Yeah,
So
so he says, so he's thinking about what he's going to wear,
Okay.
and he says, I think I need my beard trimmed, and I think I'm okay here. And we kind of play house, play recording studio. We have everything set up, and we pick a time. It's going to be 9 o'clock our time in the morning, and 7:30 or something, 7 in the evening, Istanbul time. So it's getting pretty exciting. It's New Year's Eve. We're getting all set ready, and we're sitting in front of the camera, the computer. I've tested the mics. I've tested the background. I'm like, well, let's don't blow this. So I'm a junior tech person, I guess, novice. So we set it all up. And we have these great conversations. This anticipatory, when is it going to happen? How's it going to happen? Nothing happens.
okay.
I'm like,
What are you looking at then? The
I'm
screen
looking at the
is-
screen, and we're looking at ourselves in the camera, waiting.
Okay.
We've got his name up, and we've got Niazi's son's name up, and we're just waiting. And I don't know what the ring's going to sound like, so
Yeah.
we're really pins and needles. And 9 o'clock rolls by, and I said, well, maybe we calculated it wrong. So we do a whole troubleshooting. What could be wrong? It's very difficult for him to sit up vertically, so he goes to recline nearby. So we're sitting in this room, and I've moved lights around, and we have this whole, we're just drumming our fingers, having okay. And all of a sudden, there's a strange sound in the room, and my father bolts up, clambers into his wheelchair, rolls into center stage, and he goes, now what? I said, say yes, I'll accept this call. And all of a sudden, there's my father in this self-screen at the bottom, and there's Niazi. And what we're seeing are people, parts of body parts in front of the camera, and shouting and in Turkish, and all of a sudden we're seeing the ceiling of their house, and they don't know we can see any of this. And then people are moving laptops and cameras around, and it's just hysterical. It's a road show. And my father's getting himself situated, and up comes his iPhone. And I said, what are you going to do? He goes, I'm going to take a picture. And I get my phone. I have a few little clips of him videotaping and talking to the camera. So Niazi gets here. Niazi is he's off center of the camera, so he's looking away. The camera is over by his right hand, looking up his nose. And he's looking away. So clearly, none of them know how to look at a camera.
But they got the Skype working, but don't know how to aim the camera.
They don't know how to aim the camera, and so there's a son putting a hand in, and then there's a hand over the camera. And my father says, Niazi, take your hand away.
He's shouting at his friend?
He's in a very loud, booming voice, like, a can with a string, 2 cans and a string, and he's shouting to Turkey, Niazi, move your hand. And Niazi is just bewildered.
Can Niazi hear him?
Yes.
Niazi can hear him saying.
And he can see my father.
Okay.
Because my father's on camera, so there is just.
But he still doesn't know how to aim the camera.
He doesn't know how to aim the camera,
So-
and somebody's hand is over it, and so there's all this stage directing going on. They're teaching each other how to be in front of this camera. And then there's side comments and directing in Turkish on the side, and you hear people laughing, and finally, they're on camera mostly, and all they can do is laugh.
Oh, they're laughing too.
They're just laughing. They're just laughing, and my heart just swelled. These people have not seen each other in 40 years, and you can tell how fond they are of each other. Oh, I get emotional.
Well,
How fond they are.
Dorothy, the ripple effect is exactly what. Now, the ripple effect, and we write about it, and it's going to expand in the next few years as more studies and more technology can find out how to modulate the chemicals. And I'm thinking oxytocin, that chemical of bonding that was regenerated when those two men saw each other after 40 years. And then it ripples to all the relatives. When
Absolutely.
I know it's hard for you to tell that story.
It's just so sweet.
But think of the effect that it had on the two men because you were there. Now, they could have done this on their own, but that's that exponential, synergistic elevation. There's a theory called the elevation theory.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Had you proposed this as a way to get your dad excited and then said, we're going to let them do it, I might have suggested as a cognitive activity enhancer, do it with as many people who love these two guys as possible. Because for you to tell your sister or somebody else, here's what happened, is good, but to have them witness it would actually get the oxytocin in your brain.
Oh, my brain too.
In gear, exactly.
Wow.
Then every time that you think about it, it's a drop or two that comes in.
Yeah. Oh well, it was. I tell you, it was a highlight.
Keep going.
So it was a highlight. So my father, and I have a little bit of a clip of this on my phone because it was so entertaining. My father stage directing. These people have chatted maybe once a month, occasionally throughout the years, or occasionally speak with
Throughout
them.
the decades.
Throughout the decades, yeah, actually, yeah, it's changed the scale. And so they say the same thing. It's formal, it's very warm, not a lot of details. I don't think there's a lot of whining. They're very affirming of each other. So here's my dad. It's like two kids in a sandbox. No, over here. No, do this. Take care of that. And now he's just wandering. His face is looking around. He doesn't know where to look. And he's hearing my dad's voice and sees him. But then the sons come in and we see parts of them. And they're all laughing and they're all testing. So it is a family affair.
Yeah.
They want to see me. So I step under the screen and we all wave. And they're so delighted to be together. They can hardly speak.
Wow.
They can hardly speak. So they're very friendly. They both talk about how old they've grown, how handsome they still are.
That is just a great example of taking an idea and finding out how to make the very most of it. But it's also taking his generation and plugging his brain into technology. And even though he sounds like an example of being savvy with technology, the fact that he can leverage that to his friend and allow him to thrive for that moment and then look forward to doing it again and doing it again.
So really the pinnacle, the climax of the whole conversation was my father said, I'd like to take a picture of you, Nazi. And Nazi looks around the room. He goes, well, you're not here. How can you take a picture of me? So there's a kind of cognitive leap, I think, of this generation of how technology can actually enhance their ability to communicate. So my father lifts up his iPhone. He goes, I'm going to take a picture of you with my iPhone. And I said, your iPhone, what? So I have some clips on my phone of the little view in the corner of my dad lifting his iPhone and then taking a picture of the screen with Nazi, of himself taking a picture on the screen, taking a picture of Nazi. It was like a mirror, the ripple effect.
Yeah.
It was all mirroring. And then now here I was in the room taking a picture of him, taking a picture, catching it all on my camera. So yesterday when I chatted with my father, he said, when are we going to do this again?
Oh, isn't that great?
I just even speaking of it, I have chills.
Wow.
And I said, well, we could do it any time. We have emails. When do you want to do this? And he goes, well, I spoke to Nazi on Sunday, a few days ago, and Nazi said, when can we do this?
Oh, wow.
And I said, Nazi asked. He goes, yes, Nazi would like to see me again. So we are now going to reactivate that circle, and I have a sister coming into town, and I want to set it up so she can be in the picture with my father.
That's it.
Yeah.
Have her in the circle to witness it. Witness it so that she'll understand that this is something that's going to keep your father's brain more engaged, especially that emotional bond that he's now got.
I think that emotional bond, Lisa wanting to stay in touch with him, so significant. He uses the phone, but it's not play a few games, but it's not that interesting.
Right.
Calls friends, uses email. He's excited. He doesn't have to get up. The email's in his hands. So I'm trying to introduce more and more technology, more games, more activities for him. So he now is playing Pinnacle on his iPad, and he's figured out that the computer's cheating. So he's really engaged.
Well, there's a lot of controversy that we hear and as we monitor the research on whether or not the internet really can be a benefit as much as the industry is touting it as the answer for cognitive failure. And we always frame it as, it's a tool, and it does certain things that make you better at what your games you're playing, but it doesn't teach you how to sleep or what to eat, and it doesn't socialize you. But we're also going down a path that I think you've unintentionally gone down brilliantly, and that's to break the social isolation using the internet technology. And you do that when someone cannot get out and do something. We have a project in San Francisco called the Senior Center Without Walls, and for almost a decade we have been working with them to help develop programs. They're a national award-winning Mind Alert Award, and their concept is to take people who can't socialize physically, they can't get together for various reasons, it's in the Bay Area, and to have them gather on the telephone like the old-fashioned party line, and you don't have to say anything, but you're welcome to sign up now. It's a full, robust, 7-day-a-week class, so that if you want to find out about Ireland, there's a lecture on Irish, or if you want to have the weekly puzzle or joke-telling session or daily gratitude section, you can listen to others or you can participate. Then I teach my brain classes on the phone from Oregon, and it's all free. It's a small grant through the Episcopal Church and a few others, and all of the instructors donate their time. The goal there is to have someone who thinks they're isolated, and they may physically be, leap through that technology and be mentally socializing. Now that group only has access through the phone, but it works. I can't imagine what's going to happen when the boomers get to where your dad's already broken new ground. And I don't know of any research yet, and that's the goal, is if somebody says, well, Dorothy, you don't have any research that proves that your dad is healthier, and you have to look at them and say, not yet, but there's no research that says it doesn't work.
Well, it may not be empirical, repeatable evidence, but he's happier.
Yeah.
So he's Skyping, he's playing games. Now I have to get him to play the games on the big screen so he can really get the full effect. We check in off and on throughout the day.
Is he playing the pinochle, you said? Is he playing against humans or the computer?
The computer.
What if you were to find in his age bracket somewhere in the world a group in which he would be playing against individuals in a friendly competition, get another person who also has this kind of the same, I think that's the potential of having this become an internet cognitive activity design track.
Well, my next question for him is, does Niazi play pinochle?
Of course.
And does his son play pinochle? So we can have an international table through Skype. We have to figure that out. What I've noticed is his keen curiosity growing towards, how do I use these tools?
Okay.
What else can I do with my phone? What's the difference between my phone and my iPad? How does the security system work?
Okay. You're imitating your dad doing that. What if I had an fMRI or a MEG scan on you, and you have him working these? What's going to happen is his brain will light up, it will exercise, he'll be mentally tired because he got a darn good workout figuring out. I'm also predicting that somebody in your dad's shoes will find a way to say, for my brain at my stage, this is what works. Yeah. He'll tell the young whippersnappers who've never been 80 years old. How old is your dad?
85.
What year was he born?
That'd be 29.
29, okay. So somebody your dad's age would be able to inform and educate a younger person in the industry what is needed. And so that's the future of a collaboration between your generation and your dad's.
Well, he has an aide, and so since reading is difficult, he has an aide try to read and start programming some of the applications or some of the functions.
Read the instructions?
Read the instructions for him.
I love it.
And walk through the process. But he's exploring, so he's learned to do some different things on the television. And I picked up the phone in my office last week, and it sounded very strange. It had a different ring, and it sounded very strange. And I picked the phone up, and as I was bringing it to my ear, I saw me. I'm like, this is very odd. Why is my picture on my camera? And I'm hearing the voice like through a speakerphone instead of through the earpiece. And I said, Dad, I can hear you. He goes, well, I can hear you. I said, I see me. And he goes, I see me. And I turned my camera around on the phone. He wondered what FaceTime was.
You punched the button and
He
you...
punched the button and there I was. and he goes, well, I said, well, let me turn the camera around so I can see you and you can see me. And the look on his face was, how is this happening?
And you saw the look because...
I saw the look.
So this is a fact then. He taught you
how to
use FaceTime.
I kind of knew by accident is how I found
Yeah.
out years ago. So he's had this phone like 5 or 6 years, and I gave it to him. We gave it to him. The kids gave it to him, so we could see him.
Okay.
Or if he couldn't explain what was happening, but he wasn't so interested in learning all the bells and whistles, and he didn't really know. But he, from the Skype and staying in touch and seeing Niazi, what is this FaceTime all about? Mm-hmm. And he says, I didn't know our phones could do this. I said, yeah, Dad, that's why you have this phone. So you can see me, I can see you. And he goes, walk around your office so I can see where you are.
Dorothy, thank you very much for being here. I think we need a book that's entitled Dennis's Guide to the Cyber World.
I was thinking there should be some episode in a sitcom because it was so, I mean, I'm still, just glittery moments with my dad and building memories with him and giving him that opportunity to learn something and also build that relationship.
To be continued.
I hope so. Thanks,
Okay,
Roger.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks.